Blake Barnes had learned to measure his life in the small victories his son achieved when Vanessa wasn't watching. Fletcher's genuine smile when they worked on model airplanes in the garage. The confidence in his voice during their early morning fishing trips. The way his 12-year-old boy could recite entire passages from his favorite books without a single stutter. Pathetic, Vanessa muttered, watching Fletcher struggle to tie his shoes before school. 12 years old and still can't manage basic tasks. Blake's jaw tightened as he knelt beside his son. Different knot, buddy. Like I showed you. His hands guided Fletcher's, patient and steady. Stop coddling him, Blake. You're making him weak, just like you. Vanessa's heels clicked against the hardwood as she grabbed her briefcase. I have a breakfast meeting with Thurman. Don't wait up. Another breakfast meeting. The 4th this month. Blake watched his wife leave, noting the extra makeup, the perfume that cost more than their monthly grocery bill. His phone buzzed, a text from his childhood friend Jackson Owen, a private investigator who'd recently moved back to town. Coffee later? Need to discuss something. Blake texted back, 10 a.m. Usual spot. Dad. Fletcher's voice was barely audible. Is Mom right? Am I broken? Blake pulled his son close. You are perfect exactly as you are, Fletcher. Your mom. He paused, choosing his words carefully. She's dealing with her own demons. That's not about you. What Blake didn't tell his son, he'd been documenting Vanessa's behavior for 6 months. The verbal abuse. The gaslighting. The way she systematically undermined Fletcher's confidence. He'd grown up in foster care, fought his way through college working 3 jobs, built a successful architectural firm from nothing. He knew cruelty when he saw it, and Vanessa had weaponized it. His phone buzzed again. Jackson, it's worse than we thought. You need to see this. The coffee shop was nearly empty when Blake arrived. Jackson sat in the back corner, a manila folder on the table between them, his expression grim. You were right to ask me to look into her, Jackson said, sliding the folder across. But Blake, this isn't just an affair. Blake opened it. Photos of Vanessa and Thurman Chun, her boss, entering hotels. Expected. But then, bank statements showing large transfers to an account in Vera Pratt's name. Vanessa's mother. Medical records with Blake's forged signature. Prescription bottles. A document titled Petition for Conservatorship. What the hell is this? Your wife and her mother are building a case to have you declared mentally incompetent, Jackson explained. The medications you've been taking for your sleep issues? They're not sleep aids. They're antipsychotics that can cause confusion, memory loss. Vera's a retired nurse. She's been consulting. Blake's hands shook. The pills Vanessa gives me every night. She's been documenting every episode you've had. The forgetfulness. The mood swings. All side effects of what she's feeding you. Jackson leaned forward. Blake, your architecture firm is worth $3.2 million. Plus your parents' life insurance payout. Another $1.8 million in trust. They want it all. Fletcher, Blake whispered. They're destroying him to isolate me. There's more. Jackson pulled out another photo. Vanessa's office is hosting a big party next Friday. Some corporate celebration. She's been bragging about forcing Fletcher to attend, making him introduce himself to everyone. I think she's planning something public. Blake's mind raced. For months, he'd felt like he was losing his grip on reality. Now everything clicked into place. The pills he'd stopped taking 2 weeks ago, claiming he felt better. The clarity returning. The way Vanessa had panicked when he suggested he didn't need them anymore. She doesn't know you stopped, Jackson observed. No, Blake agreed, a plan forming. And she won't. Not until it's too late. That evening, Blake played his role perfectly. Fumbled with the car keys. Asked Vanessa what day it was. Took the pill she handed him with a grateful smile, then spat it into the bathroom sink when she left. Fletcher found him there. Dad, I need to tell you something. Blake knelt to his son's level. What is it, buddy? I heard Grandma Vera and Mom talking last week. They said, Fletcher's voice cracked. They said once you're in the facility, I'll learn to be normal. That they'll fix me too. Dad, what does that mean? Blake pulled his son into his arms, rage burning white-hot beneath his calm exterior. It means we're going to be smarter than them, Fletcher. Both of us. Can you be brave for me? Fletcher nodded against his father's chest. Good. Because I need your help with something important. The office party at Chin Industries sprawled across the 20th floor, all glass walls and city lights. Vanessa had spent the morning criticizing everything about Fletcher, his haircut, his clothes, his posture. Blake had watched her tear their son down systematically, each insult calculated. "Remember," she hissed to Fletcher in the elevator, "smile and speak clearly. Don't embarrass me like you always do." Blake squeezed Fletcher's hand. They'd rehearsed this. 2 weeks of preparation. His son was ready. The party was in full swing. Thurman Chin held court near the bar, his hand lingering too long on Vanessa's lower back. Vera Pratt stood nearby, champagne in hand, surveying the room like a general planning a campaign. "There's my superstar." Vanessa's voice carried across the room, faker than her smile. "Everyone, this is my son Fletcher. Come on, honey, introduce yourself." Fletcher stood frozen, exactly as planned. Let them think he was terrified. "Oh, for God's sake," Vanessa snapped, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. "Stop mumbling, loser." Whispers rippled through the crowd. Blake watched faces turn toward them, some sympathetic, others shocked. "Perfect. My son can't even speak properly like his father," Vanessa announced to Thurman and a cluster of executives. "Blake's got issues too, but Fletcher here is just. Maybe he needs special education," Vera chimed in loudly, playing her part in the long-running performance. "Or therapy. Intensive therapy." Blake saw it, the moment Fletcher's eyes changed. No longer scared. Focused. His son had his mother's cruelty memorized, cataloged. And now he'd use it. "Mom," Fletcher said, his voice suddenly clear and steady. The stutter gone. "Should I tell them about your dirty secret?" Vanessa's smile froze. "What?" "Fletcher, don't be ridiculous. Should I tell them how you've been poisoning Dad?" Fletcher pulled a small recorder from his pocket, the one Blake had given him. "I have recordings. Months of them. You and Grandma Vera planning to steal everything." The room went silent. "Fletcher, stop this right now." Vanessa reached for him, but Blake stepped between them. "Let him finish," Blake said quietly. The confused, scattered man was gone. His voice carried authority that made Vanessa step back. "For once, let our son speak." Fletcher pressed play. Vanessa's voice filled the room. "The antipsychotics should have him committed within 6 months. Then we get the conservatorship, liquidate the business, and Thurman and I can finally be together. The kid's just collateral damage." Vera's voice. "Once Blake's institutionalized and Fletcher's in behavioral modification, no one will believe anything either of them says." Thurman Chun went white. "Vanessa, what the hell?" "But here's my favorite part," Fletcher continued, his voice growing stronger. "Mom, should I play the recording from last week? The one where you and Thurman discuss how he'll promote you to VP once Dad's firm is sold? How you've been feeding company secrets to Thurman to undermine Dad's contracts." Vanessa lunged for the recorder. Blake caught her wrist. "Corporate espionage, Vanessa? Really?" Around them, phones were out. Recording. Chin Industries board members exchanged looks. This wasn't just a domestic drama. It was a legal nightmare unfolding at their corporate event. "You bastard," Vanessa snarled at Blake. "You knew. This whole time." "I stopped taking your pills 3 weeks ago," Blake said calmly. "I documented everything. The medications. The forged medical records. The bank transfers. Jackson's testimony as a licensed PI. It's all with my attorney." Thurman Chin stepped forward. "Security, escort Mrs. Barnes and Mrs. Pratt from the building. Vanessa, you're terminated effective immediately. We'll be cooperating fully with any criminal investigation." "You can't do this," Vanessa shrieked. "I'll take everything from you, Blake." You'll what?" Blake's voice was ice. "Destroy our son more? Gaslight him like you've been doing? Make him believe he's broken?" He knelt beside Fletcher. "She wanted you to think you were weak. You're the bravest person I know." Fletcher hugged his father, tears streaming. But not tears of shame this time. Relief. As security escorted a screaming Vanessa away, Vera close behind, Blake noticed something. Anita Gilbert, Vanessa's co-worker, approached hesitantly. "Mr. Barnes? I'm sorry, but there's something else you should know." Anita Gilbert led Blake and Fletcher to a quiet conference room while the party dissolved into chaos behind them. She was in her 50s, with kind eyes that held too much knowledge. "I should have spoken up months ago," she began. "I'm HR. I saw the complaints." Complaints. 3 female interns filed sexual harassment complaints against Thurman Chin over the past year. Vanessa was supposed to investigate them as the employee relations manager. She buried every single one. Anita slid a folder across the table. She traded their silence for her affair and her promotion path. "These girls lost their careers, Mr. Barnes. One attempted suicide. Blake's jaw clenched. He'd thought he understood the depths of Vanessa's cruelty. He'd been wrong. Why tell me this now? Because I recorded tonight's revelation. I'm sending it to the corporate ethics board and the district attorney. Thurmanson is done. But Vanessa? Anita's expression hardened. She destroyed young women to cover for a predator. That needs to be addressed too. Fletcher tugged Blake's sleeve. Dad, those girls, can we help them? Blake looked at his son, this 12-year-old who'd been called broken, weak, pathetic, who'd just stood in front of dozens of strangers and exposed a conspiracy, who now worried about helping others. Yes, Blake said. We can and we will. Over the next week, Blake's world shifted. He met with attorneys, not just for the divorce, but for the criminal charges. Attempted fraud. Elder abuse statutes technically didn't apply, but pharmaceutical assault did. Vanessa had been systematically poisoning him for 8 months. Jackson dug deeper. The $1.8 million in trust from Blake's parents wasn't just money. It was land in Montana, mineral rights included. Recent geological surveys suggested significant rare earth deposits, worth potentially $50 million. Vanessa had known. Vera had known. They'd planned to have Blake declared incompetent before he found out. How did you figure it out? Jackson asked over coffee. Fletcher, Blake admitted. 3 months ago, he asked why I was always tired. So innocent. So observant. I started paying attention. The pills made me sleep through entire days. Vanessa would tell me we'd had conversations I didn't remember. She'd moved money, signed documents, all with my forged signature while I was drugged. She's claiming you're abusive now, Jackson warned. Her attorney's filing for a restraining order. Blake smiled grimly. Let her try? I have 6 months of video footage from our home security system. Every verbal attack on Fletcher. Every time she slipped me those pills. Every conversation with her mother plotting. You really are a chess player. I grew up in foster care, Jackson. You learn to see the moves before they happen. I knew something was wrong. I just needed proof before I acted. But Blake's revenge was more sophisticated than legal action. That evening, he made a phone call to Carter Orr, Vanessa's AP chemistry teacher from high school, now a professor at the local university. Through Jackson's investigation, Blake learned something interesting. Vanessa had plagiarized her way through college using her mother's old nursing school essays. Her entire career was built on fraud. Professor Orr? My name is Blake Barnes. I have information about academic fraud involving one of your former students. Blake had built his architecture firm on one principle. Every structure needed a solid foundation. Destroy the foundation, and everything collapsed. Vanessa's life was no different. Phase 1 complete, Jackson reported, entering Blake's office. The university's investigation confirmed the plagiarism. Her bachelor's and master's degrees are being revoked. That means every professional certification she holds is now invalid. Every job she's ever had required those credentials, Blake noted. She can't practice HR without them. Gets better. I talked to those interns Anita mentioned. They're filing a civil lawsuit against Chun Industries, with Vanessa named as a co-defendant. One of them, Rosario Mitchell, she's a law student now. She's out for blood. Blake reviewed the files spread across his desk. Bank records showing Vanessa had been slowly draining their joint accounts. Another $200,000 gone over 2 years, carefully hidden. Property records showing she'd put their house up for loan using forged documents. She'd accumulated $400,000 in debt in his name. She was planning to file bankruptcy in my name, Blake realized. Destroy my credit, my business relationships. Make me unemployable before the conservatorship. Vera's pension is gone, Jackson added. She cashed it out early, $180,000, and invested it in a shell company. Want to guess who controlled that company? Thurman Chun. His nephew, actually. Cleaner that way. But yeah, Chin's family. They scammed Vera while Vera was scamming you. Beautiful karmic justice. Blake thought about Vera Pratt, who'd never liked him. She'd always told Vanessa she'd married down, that Blake's foster care background made him damaged goods. Now her pension was gone, and her daughter's career was destroyed. What about Thurman Chun? Blake asked. Chun Industries board fired him. The sexual harassment complaints, the ethics violations, he's radioactive. But here's the interesting part. Jackson grinned. His wife of 20 years? She's a corporate attorney. A very angry corporate attorney who didn't know about any of this. She's filing for divorce and going after every asset. Good. Dad, Fletcher appeared in the doorway, backpack slung over his shoulder. Since the party, his stutter had almost disappeared. Turned out, it was never a speech impediment. It was anxiety. Anxiety from living with Vanessa. Can we go home? Almost done, buddy. Fletcher entered the office properly, no longer the scared kid hiding behind doors. Anita called. She said Rosario wants to meet us. Rosario Mitchell was 24, fierce, and brilliant. She sat across from Blake and Fletcher in a law office conference room, her eyes hard as steel. I almost died because of your wife, she said bluntly. The harassment, the retaliation when I reported it, the way she destroyed my reputation at Shun Industries. I couldn't get another internship anywhere. I lost my scholarship. I lost 2 years. I'm sorry, Blake said simply. Don't be. Be useful. Rosario slid a document across. I'm not just suing for damages. I'm going criminal. I need your testimony about Vanessa's character, her methods, and I need those recordings Fletcher made. The DA already has copies, Blake confirmed. But why do you need me? Because Vanessa's attorney is claiming she was coerced by Chun, that she was a victim too. I need to prove she's a calculated predator. Your case, the poisoning, the fraud, the abuse of your son, it establishes a pattern. Rosario's smile was sharp. I'm building a RICO case. Racketeering. If I can prove Vanessa, Chun, and Vera operated as a criminal enterprise, we're talking 15 to 20 years minimum. Blake studied the young woman. This isn't just about justice for you. No, Rosario admitted. It's about making sure no one else gets destroyed like I was. Like those other interns were. Like your son almost was. Fletcher spoke up. Will it work? With your dad's evidence? Yes. He documented everything. The forged signatures constitute identity theft. The poisoning is assault with a deadly weapon. The financial fraud is grand larceny. Add in the conspiracy with her mother and Chun. Rosario's eyes gleamed. Your mom made one critical mistake, Fletcher. She assumed everyone around her was stupid. Over the next 3 weeks, Blake executed his plan with surgical precision. He'd learned every detail of Vanessa's life, her patterns, her vulnerabilities. Now he exploited them. He contacted every company Vanessa had ever worked for, providing evidence of her fraudulent credentials. 5 previous employers discovered similar patterns of misconduct, buried complaints, forged documents. Class action lawsuits multiplied. He reached out to Vera's former colleagues at the hospital. It turned out Vera had been investigated twice for medication discrepancies during her nursing career, pills going missing, patients reporting unexpected side effects. Nothing proven, but suddenly those old files looked very relevant. Blake even tracked down Thurman Chen's previous victims, not just at Chen Industries, but at his 2 former companies. 8 women total, all with similar stories of harassment, intimidation, and retaliation. Together, they formed a coalition. You're destroying them, Jackson observed, watching Blake work. No, Blake corrected. I'm exposing them. They destroyed themselves. But Blake saved his most creative revenge for last. Vanessa's mother Vera had one weak spot, her pride. She'd spent decades building a reputation in their small community. Church council member, charity volunteer, pillar of society. Blake made sure everyone knew the truth. He anonymously mailed copies of the recordings to every organization Vera belonged to. Her church group, her book club, the historical society, the country club. Everywhere she'd ever sneered at Blake for his foster care background. Every place she'd made him feel less than. They now heard her plotting to drug and imprison her own son-in-law. The social destruction was immediate and total. Is it wrong that I want to watch her lose everything? Blake asked Jackson one evening. Would it stop you if I said yes? Blake considered. No. She tried to destroy my son. Make him think he was broken. There's no forgiveness for that. Then it's not wrong, Jackson said. It's justice. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for a Tuesday morning. Blake arrived early, Fletcher beside him, both wearing their best suits. Across the aisle sat Vanessa, Vera, and their attorney, a slick corporate lawyer named Eduardo Frank, who specialized in making problems disappear. Frank stood. Your Honor, this entire case is a vindictive fabrication by a mentally unstable husband who... Objection, Rosario Mitchell cut in. She'd offered to assist the DA's office pro bono, specifically for this case. Defense is testifying without evidence. Judge Weldon Haley frowned. Counselor Frank, Do you have medical documentation of Mr. Barnes' alleged mental instability? The defendant collected extensive records of his erratic behavior. Records she created by poisoning him, Rosario interjected. Your Honor, we have testimony from Dr. Robin Frederick, a toxicologist, confirming the medications found in Mr. Barnes' system were never prescribed to him. We have pharmacy records showing Mrs. Barnes filled prescriptions using forged doctor signatures. We have recordings of her discussing this poisoning explicitly. Frank's confidence wavered. Those recordings were obtained illegally. In Connecticut, one-party consent applies, Rosario smiled. Fletcher Barnes, age 12, was a party to the conversations with his mother. Completely legal. Blake watched Vanessa's face pale. She'd always underestimated Fletcher, dismissed him as weak. That arrogance was destroying her now. The judge reviewed the evidence. Bank records, medical reports, the recordings, testimony from Anita Gilbert about buried sexual harassment complaints, statements from 8 women across 3 companies. The pattern was undeniable. Mrs. Barnes, Mrs. Pratt, and Mr. Chun are hereby ordered to stand trial on multiple charges including conspiracy to commit fraud, assault with intent to harm, identity theft, and violations of professional ethics codes. Judge Haley's expression was granite. Bail is set at $500,000 each. Vanessa's mask finally cracked. This is insane. Blake is making this up. He's manipulating Fletcher. Actually, Fletcher said, standing up, I've been recording you for 11 months, Mom. Since before Dad even knew something was wrong. Because you told me I was broken, that I need to be fixed. I knew that was wrong. So I paid attention. The courtroom went silent. You're a child, Vanessa hissed. You don't understand. I understand you're a liar. Fletcher said clearly, no stutter, no fear. I understand you hurt Dad because you wanted money. I understand you hurt those women at your work. And I understand you tried to make me believe I was the problem. His voice strengthened. But I'm not broken, Mom. You are. Blake's hand rested on his son's shoulder. Pride flooded through him. This wasn't revenge anymore. This was justice served by the person who'd suffered most. Judge Haley called for order as Vanessa began screaming. Security moved in. As they led her away, she locked eyes with Blake. You'll never get away with this, she spat. I have friends. Resources. You have nothing, Blake said quietly. No degree. No career. No money. I froze all the accounts. No reputation. You burned every bridge. He paused. And you have no son. Because Fletcher's mine. Legally, emotionally, in every way that matters. And you'll never touch him again. The fight drained from Vanessa's eyes. That, Blake realized, was the moment she understood. She'd lost everything. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Blake attended every day, Fletcher beside him when school allowed. They watched as prosecutor after prosecutor laid out the evidence. Rosario's RICO case transformed what could have been isolated incidents into a comprehensive criminal conspiracy. Thurman Chin broke first. On day 5, facing 15 years and the complete destruction of his reputation, he took a plea deal. His testimony buried Vanessa. He described how she'd approached him with the scheme, how she'd seduced him, how she'd promised they'd be together once Blake was institutionalized and Fletcher was in state custody. She had it all planned, Chin testified, avoiding eye contact with Vanessa. The medical records, the forged documents, the timeline for draining his accounts. She showed me spreadsheets. She said her mother had done this before, helped someone get conservatorship over an elderly relative. They'd split $3 million that time. Vera Pratt's criminal history came out. 2 previous conservatorship cases where she'd been the concerned medical professional advising families. Both families later discovered missing funds. Nothing ever proven, but suddenly the pattern was clear. Vera wasn't just an accomplice. She was the architect. My daughter was weak, Vera said on the stand. Her courtroom persona of the dignified elder crumbling. She couldn't even trap a decent man on her own. That foster care rat with his sob story, she fell for it. I had to fix her mistake. Blake remained impassive, but Fletcher flinched. Jackson leaned over. You okay, kid? She called my dad a rat, Fletcher whispered. He's the best person I know. Damn right he is, Jackson agreed. The defense fell apart. Eduardo Frank withdrew, citing conflict of interest. Turned out Chin Industries was one of his firm's biggest clients. The public defender who replaced him did her best, but the evidence was overwhelming. Rosario presented the full scope of Vanessa's crimes. Not just Blake and Fletcher, but the 8 women whose careers she'd destroyed. The interns who'd attempted suicide, struggled with PTSD, lost years of their lives. Vanessa hadn't just been cruel. She'd been systematically destructive to anyone who threatened her advancement. The defendant exhibits clear sociopathic tendencies, testified Dr. Barry Adkins, a forensic psychologist. No empathy, no remorse, a pattern of manipulation spanning decades. She views people as tools. When her own son became inconvenient, she sought to have him institutionalized. This isn't someone who made mistakes. This is someone who weaponizes human relationships. On day 17, the jury returned. Guilty on all counts. Vanessa Barnes would serve 15 years minimum. Vera Pratt, 20 years. Her prior suspected cases and her role as the mastermind brought enhanced sentences. Thurman Chun, already sentenced through his plea deal, would serve 8 years. Blake felt Fletcher grip his hand as the verdicts were read. "We won, Dad." "You won," Blake corrected. "You were brave when it mattered most." But Blake had one final move to make. 6 months later, Blake stood in the same courtroom for the final hearing. Not criminal this time, family court. Vanessa's parental rights termination. She appeared via video link from prison, orange jumpsuit replacing her designer suits. Her attorney argued she deserved contact with Fletcher, that rehabilitation was possible, that a mother's rights were sacred. Judge Haley turned to Fletcher. "Would you like to say anything?" Fletcher, now 13 and standing taller, approached the microphone. "I used to think maybe I deserved how Mom treated me, that I really was broken. But my dad taught me something." He looked at Blake. "Love doesn't hurt. Real parents don't try to break their kids. They build them up. My mom poisoned my dad. She tried to steal everything from us. She told me I needed to be fixed so many times I believed it." Fletcher's voice wavered but held strong. "I don't need to be fixed. I needed to be away from her. And now I am." The judge's ruling was swift. Parental rights terminated. No contact. Vanessa's scream of rage echoed through the video link before it cut out. Outside the courthouse, Blake and Fletcher found an unexpected gathering. Rosario Mitchell and the 7 other women who'd been harassed by Chun, who'd had their careers derailed by Vanessa's cover-ups. Anita Gilbert, who'd finally spoken up. Jackson Owen, who'd uncovered the truth. Even Professor Carter, or who'd confirmed the academic fraud. "We wanted to say thank you," Rosario said. "What you did, exposing everything, it gave all of us justice." "Fletcher did it," Blake corrected. "He was the brave one." "You both were," Rosario replied. "You didn't just fight for yourselves. You fought for all of us." Over coffee, the group shared their stories. Rosario had graduated law school top of her class, specializing in victim advocacy. 2 of the other women had started a nonprofit supporting workplace harassment victims. Professor or was implementing stricter plagiarism detection at the university. "What about you?" Jackson asked Blake. "What's next?" Blake looked at Fletcher, who was laughing with Rosario, confident and happy. "We're moving to Montana. That land my parents left, turns out it's worth developing. I'm designing sustainable housing for the workers who'll mine the rare earth deposits." Fletcher wants to help. "I want to be an architect like Dad," Fletcher added, rejoining them. "But also a counselor. For kids whose parents make them feel broken." Blake's throat tightened. 6 months ago, his son couldn't speak in front of strangers without stuttering. Now he was planning a future helping others. "Vanessa wanted to destroy us to get that land," Blake continued. "Instead, we're going to build something good with it. Community housing, mental health resources, youth programs." He smiled. "Better revenge than anything I could have planned." "That's not revenge," Jackson observed. "That's moving forward." "Maybe that's the best revenge of all," Blake said. As they left the coffee shop, Fletcher tugged Blake's sleeve. "Dad, I've been thinking. Maybe we could set up a scholarship for kids in foster care who want to study architecture. Like you did." Blake pulled his son into a hug. Vanessa had tried to convince Fletcher he was weak, broken, a burden. Instead, Fletcher had become strong, empathetic, forward-thinking. Everything Blake had hoped for. "That's a perfect idea, buddy." They walked toward Blake's car, past a newsstand where the headline read, "Local architect donates $2 million to Youth Mental Health Initiative." Blake had made that anonymous donation last week, funded by selling their house, the one Vanessa had tried to fraudulently mortgage. Let her know, from prison, that the money she'd tried to steal was helping the kids she'd dismissed as broken. Fletcher climbed into the passenger seat, no longer the scared child from the office party. You know what's funny, Dad? What? Mom always said you were weak because you came from foster care. That I was weak because I was shy. But we're the ones still standing. Blake started the engine, looking at his son, his brilliant, brave, unbreakable son. Strength isn't about being loud or cruel, Fletcher. It's about protecting the people you love, standing up when it matters, knowing when to be patient and when to fight. You taught me that. You already had it in you. You just needed someone to believe in you. As they drove toward their new life, Blake thought about revenge. He'd wanted to destroy Vanessa, to make her suffer as she'd made Fletcher suffer. In the end, he'd done something better. He'd exposed the truth, let justice run its course, and built something stronger from the wreckage. Vanessa would spend 15 years in prison, stripped of her degrees, her career, her reputation. Vera would die behind bars. The sentence for elderly defendants was essentially life. Thurman Chin lost his family, his business, his freedom. They'd all paid for their cruelty. But Blake and Fletcher? They'd won by refusing to break, by standing together, by being smart, patient, and strategic, by letting the truth be their weapon and justice be their shield. Hey, Dad, Fletcher said as they hit the highway. Can we stop for burgers? I'm starving. Blake laughed, the sound free and genuine. Absolutely. Your choice of place. Cool. And Dad, thanks for never giving up on me. Never, Blake promised. Not ever. In the rearview mirror, the city faded behind them. Ahead lay Montana, new beginnings, and a future built on truth instead of lies. Blake had learned in foster care that family wasn't just blood. It was who fought for you, who believed in you, who made you better. He'd been lucky enough to find that in his son. And Fletcher had been lucky enough to discover he'd never been broken at all. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.